Why do we eat? This is something that I have been reflecting on this while I'm on this journey of trying to overcome food addiction. And for many of you, you might be thinking, oh, okay, she's addicted to food, but I think most of us are. I think most of us have been conditioned to be addicted to food since before we were even born, when we were in our mother's womb, depending on the foods that she ate and the foods that we were given when we were babies, and almost being like force fed when we weren't hungry, we didn't want to eat, but we had to go sit down for dinner. Whatever the case may be, I've been thinking about like, why are we actually eating? And I've been doing this practice of trying to not eat for pleasure and just eat plain whole foods. So I had this tendency to go from one extreme to the other. I was raised in an Italian American home, and everything revolved around food. And I didn't want my life to revolve around food. So I wanted to simplify my life, and I wanted to simplify food. I didn't want my entire life to be revolved around making food in the kitchen. And when I ended up going raw vegan to the opposite extreme, and even getting into like fruitarianism and things like that, I was still in the kitchen making all this gourmet raw stuff, right? So I was still kind of, feeding the senses and looking for that dopamine hit. And I just kept yo-yoing back and forth. And then one day I had this experience where I did a plant medicine, and I had this download or this insight that I was like, I didn't need to eat. Like, why are we even eating, And that we're all kind of breatharians, that we don't really need food. Whether this is true or not, this is the download I got. And I've been fasting, like intermittent fasting, since I was a teenager. And I started experimenting with longer fasts and just how it feels not to eat, just to have that freedom. So like I've been chasing this freedom of like not having this need to eat, and just really sitting with, why do I feel like I need to eat? Because I don't really feel hungry, physically hungry. Everything kind of stems from emotional craving, or this need to fill like a hole inside of me, or wanting to replace like this lack of love that I have, either from myself or rejection or whatever it was growing up, neglect, whatever. I loved myself through food. That's how I comforted myself. I felt safe. And I was thinking last night how food makes me feel safe. So anyways, long story short, I've been on this whole food plant-based. Anyways, let me get back to it. So I've kept yo-yoing back and forth between raw veganism and, binging. I would binge. I would really get off of eating raw, and then I would go back to binge eating junk food, like vegan junk food. I don't like meat. I hate meat. I don't eat it. I never liked it since I was a baby. I never ate meat, but I love carbohydrates. I love bread. I love fried food. I know it's not good for me, but I love it. So that's where I'm trying to break this addiction. So anyways, I've been sitting with this, like, why do we eat, right? So for me, it feels like I'm just eating for pleasure. Like I'm eating to numb myself, like a drug. I'm using food like a drug. And I think many of us do use food as a drug. So what does that mean? So if I'm not going to go to these extremes, and I keep jumping to trying to be raw or fruitarian, and then I keep going all the way back, it's because I've skipped these steps of building these healthy habits, of mindful eating, of chewing my food properly before I swallow it, and really, sitting with my food, blessing my food, making it a ritual, and not just, shoving it in my face and eating as much as I can, and, not even really feeling, the feeling of being full, right? Like being full and feeling like I still want to eat. It's like, what is that insatiable hunger, that craving that I feel? And we can even do this on raw foods and fruit. We become obsessed, and we feel like we have to eat so much, when science shows that health and longevity is linked to caloric restriction and fat and more fasting. I think a lot of times we eat way too much. We eat more than we actually need to. So are we actually eating to nourish our body for nutrition, Or are we eating for the pleasure? Because think about, like, why do you eat? You eat because you're bored. You eat because it's a social setting. You eat because you feel awkward at a party. You eat because you want to numb your emotions. You eat because you can't think of something else to do. You eat to pass the time. You eat because it's fun, because it tastes good. It's something to do, right? You like the sensation of chewing and swallowing and feeling it in your stomach, and the tastes and the textures and the temperature and the smells. It's an experience. Eating is an experience. But what do we do when this experience consumes our whole life? We wake up, we're thinking, what are we going to eat? I need to eat something. Where are we going to go for dinner? What are we going to make for dinner? I gotta come up with recipes for dinner. I have to buy the food. I have to wash the food. I have to prep the food. I have to make the food. I have to clean up the food. I have to clean up the dishes. And then you start it all over again, right? Think of how much time your life is spent. So I wanted to simplify this. That's kind of why I wanted to go raw vegan and even fruitarianism. But, if you just kind of jump to it, you may not get the lessons that you needed to learn or really get to the root of your addiction. And then you might bring that addiction into raw foods or into fruitarianism and overindulge or be eating for the wrong reasons, right? Okay, so for me, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to focus on eating raw vegan. I'm going to focus on just eating whole food plant-based because I just, I'm not in a place to be eating raw right now. I've done it for the past 15 years off and on. I'm like, okay, something's not working. I need to get to the root of my addiction. Okay, why I keep falling off. So I'm just going to I'm not going to focus on health. I'm not going to focus on being perfect. I'm just going to focus on eating whole food, cooked plant-based, right? And I am eating some raw food, but just everything is whole foods. So I'm not putting any seasonings. I'm not putting any oils. I'm not eating any sugar. I had a few slip-ups over the past few months, but for the most part, I'm being very, very diligent, very disciplined on this regimen, okay? And I'm sitting with my feelings of what am I feeling as this comes up, right? Because I want something. There's this hunger inside of me. It's not physiological or physical hunger. It is an emotional craving. So I'm thinking to myself, where is this coming from? And if I was really hungry, I would go eat a piece of fruit or, something healthy, but that's not what I want, right? So it's my mind that is hungry. So that's how I know I'm not actually hungry. Because if I was starving, I'd be like, give me anything. Give me this strawberry. Give me this orange. Give me whatever it is, right? But if you have an orange in front of you and you have like a piece of pizza in front of you and you go for the pizza, then you're not actually hungry. You're eating for pleasure, right? And strip away the salt, strip away the sugar, strip away the oil. Do you even want to eat it after that point, right? So we're talking cooked food right here. I'm not talking like fruit and vegetables like fruitarian. I'm just talking if you are eating, let's say, a piece of meat and you took everything off of it, would you really enjoy it? I know there's like carnivores and everything who just eat plain meat with nothing, but is it really that enjoyable, right? If you take and chicken too, like chicken with nothing on it, it's bland. It's not even. I never liked meat my whole life, but people put stuff. They put the chicken in their salad and whatever it is, right? So I'm just using meat as an example, but it could be anything. It could be, your dish, right? Your casserole or your pizza or whatever it is. You put the garlic on there and the pepper and the sun-dried tomatoes and whatever it is, the pesto and the oils, and it's this whole like arousal experience. But if you took all that away, would you enjoy it as much, right? So let's say chips, for example. One time I wanted to get a bag of chips and I was trying not to eat salt. So they had these chips that had 0 salt in it and I didn't want to eat it because I didn't want the chip. I wanted the salt on the chip. I was addicted to the salt. So we're addicted to these things. And when you remove that, the pleasure is not really there, right? Some people say, well, you get used to eating your whole food the way it is and you enjoy the natural taste and flavors of the food. I haven't reached that point yet. I'm not there. So for me right now, I feel like what I'm eating is boring and it's bland and it's not satisfying. Even though I'm eating a healthy sized portion of plain vegetables with like beans and whatever it is with nothing on it, I'm like eating it and I'm like, this sucks. This sucks. I wish I had something to put on it, right? But it's like, are we now eating for nourishment, or are we eating for the sauces and the spices and everything else, right? So it's like, are you actually eating for nutrition? Okay. And the same thing with like, I said to my husband, I was like, because he'll do it too. Like he has a bowl that he eats every day, and sometimes he's like in a craving, and he's like, I just want something else, like maybe like some artichoke. I just need like one more thing to make my bowl like feel satisfying to me. It's like, where's that coming from? And I have my bowl, and I was thinking to myself, like, I need something like a little crunch. So I made these chia seed crackers in the dehydrator, and I'm trying not to eat like processed food that remind me of chips. So that was like a chip. So it's like my mind is going from one addiction to the other. So I'm trying to replace my addiction with something else that reminds me of my addiction to make me feel better, because I feel like I can't live without that crunch of the chip. So I was saying to him, like, well, what about popcorn, right? I'm trying to validate things or justify things in my mind of like, is this acceptable? Would this be a whole food, so that I could like talk myself into having something that I originally told myself I wasn't going to eat, right? I said I wasn't going to have junk food or processed food. So I'm thinking like, well, popcorn without anything on it's a whole food, right? But popcorn's not really that great, kind of jacks up your stomach, corn spikes your blood sugar. So, I'm trying to justify it. That's what we do. We try to justify it with a healthier option. That's why you eat a vegan cheeseburger, because you don't want to eat an animal, but you're basically tastes like an animal, smells like an animal, smells like meat, tastes like meat, looks like meat. Your brain doesn't know the difference. So, it's like, why even give your brain that satisfaction, or your mind that satisfaction of feeding into the addiction, right? Why not break the addiction to the cheeseburger in the first place, or to the meat in the first place? Why have to even replace it? Because then you get so used to eating the vegan cheeseburger, you don't know the difference. And then when you fall off of eating vegan, you go right back to eating the cheeseburger, because you never broke that addiction in the first place. So I'm just trying to justify eating the popcorn, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, why is it that I feel like I just need something like a snack or something, even if it's healthy? Why do I feel like I need that? Because that's not eating for nourishment. I'm eating to satisfy something, to fill something, to numb something. I want the act of putting something in my mouth and chewing it and swallowing it. When if I was really hungry, I would just, have some celery, or, like some fruit or some vegetables, or even some, cooked whole food, plant-based. But it's like, why do I feel like I want the snack? Just the binging of eating a whole bowl of something, like even while I'm like watching TV. So think about this, right? If you don't put anything on your food and you eat it plain, do you even want it? And if you have to put all of that stuff on your food, do you need it if you have to talk yourself into eating it? Because if you're putting all the sauces and the flavors and the spices and the oils and the salts and the sugars to eat your food, it's like, I don't want that, but I'll eat it if I put all this stuff on it. So do you really need it? Is your body actually like looking for food? Or because like, why do you need to eat if you're, and I'm not saying we shouldn't eat. I'm just saying this is the interesting part. Okay. And I said it to Daniel earlier, and I'm trying to get that thread again of what exactly it is that I said. Think about when we're transitioning, or like not even transitioning, but like when you're looking for a recipe for something, it needs to taste good in order for you to eat it. So you're looking for recipes that are going to taste good for you to eat it. So do you need to eat it, or are you just eating for pleasure? Because if you remove everything else and you just eat the whole food, plant-based, do you want it? Or are you going to eat less? Right? So it's almost like we put all of this seasonings and oils and salts and everything onto our food because we're trying to talk ourselves into eating it. Does that make sense? It's like, I want my husband to like this food. I want him to eat this food. So I'm going to make this extravagant meal and it's going to taste amazing and he's going to eat it. I don't know. Think about that. If we really needed to eat, we wouldn't have to talk ourselves into eating it. We would just eat it. So if you say you're not addicted to food, then just try an experiment. Stop eating all the spices and the seasonings and the sauces and the textures. Even if you're raw, like just try it. Can you go without the flavor? Like just do whole foods, you know? It doesn't even have to be fruitarian, but like even if you're vegan or raw, like, you know, to sit with yourself and to see like, why is it that I feel like I need the taste to eat something if your body needed it in the first place? If your body needs it, then you should be able to just eat it without needing to put stuff on it. So it's like, why are we eating? You know, are we actually eating because our body needs nourishment? Or are we eating for pleasure and for texture and for taste and for the experience of eating? Because if we were only eating for nourishment and for nutrition, food would not be consuming our entire life. We wouldn't be scrolling through tons and tons of recipes and making videos. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, because I know people are trying to get people to transition to certain healthier diets, and it's fine. But like, we're just going from one addiction to the next addiction. But like, what if we worked through the addiction, the core of the addiction, and we just ate to eat because our body needs, nourishment, and not because, we're filling like this hole where we're like numbing ourselves, or we even have to talk ourselves into eating something. So do a little experiment on yourself. Some people, they've been doing it a long time, and I praise them for it. There are people who've been eating like this, and I think that, it's next level. It's next level. Even if you're eating a cooked whole food plant-based diet with nothing on it, is highly disciplined, compared to even eating a raw vegan diet that is all gourmet, that's resembling food that you're addicted to, that you're trying to give up, So, yeah, it's so interesting. Anyways, I just wanted to share, and I'm not pushing beliefs on anybody. I'm not telling anyone that they're wrong. I'm just reflecting, because I'm going through this healing journey of trying to heal my relationship with food, and I'm trying to overcome the core of my addiction to food. Addiction to food. It's like sex too, like let's say it's like if you have sex too much, it kind of waters it down, and it's not like special, And if you eat chocolate every day, you lose the novelty of eating chocolate. It's not special anymore. And if you obsess over food and you're eating food like just nonstop, without fasting, you don't appreciate your food, So we have to be fasting and eating, not just eating all the time, going from one meal to the next. And like I wanted to mention one more thing. Like I said about, I don't typically ever feel hungry physically. It's always emotional hunger. The only time I ever really experience true hunger is after an extended fast. And that's when I appreciate the food. I eat it without that insatiable hunger. I don't feel the need to binge. Like I can just take a bite, feel it in my mouth, taste it, and it just tastes amazing. And I think the more we eat, the more that hunger, that insatiable hunger that never gets satisfied, grows. And the more we incorporate fasting in between our meals, the less, the more that kind of subsides, and the more that we can appreciate food, and we can eat intuitively to know what it is that our body is truly craving for, not our mind. Anyways, I hope this sat well with you, and I know it's very controversial because eating is a huge part of our lives. It's part of our culture. It's part of our identity. But what if we took all of the obsession that we had towards food and we just ate what our body needed, and we harnessed our energy and our creativity and our mental power toward other things, like maybe creating or making an impact in the world, or whatever it is that we want to do, our purpose, our passion, our gifts, having more time on our hands, right? Because a lot of our time goes toward food. So just be mindful about how much time you think about food, how much time you spend about food, and be honest with yourself. Is this obsession? Is this addiction? And if it's not, then you should be able to give things up that you love when it comes to food. You should be, at least for a short period of time. You should be able to go a period of time without having withdrawals, I would say, because we do get withdrawals when we give things up that we love, whether it's junk food, gourmet food, fried food, snacky food, binge eating food. And be mindful with what you're eating. Chew your food and bless your food. It's like this sacred experience. We're putting something in our body, and it's like, why are we putting that in our body? And would we even want to put it in our body if it didn't have all the tastes and the flavors and everything? So, I mean, you're inviting something into your body. It's like the energy of that food is going inside of you. It's the same thing with sex. You're allowing something into your body. You're welcoming it into your body. Your food, you're welcoming it into your body. And we should just be mindful about what we put into our body, because our body is sacred. It's not a garbage disposal. And I'm not saying that, we shouldn't eat it all, but I'm saying that what we do put in our body should be intentional, and we should be in control, and we should have the freedom to put what we want in our body without feeling like we're being controlled by addiction or obsession or cravings or whatever else is giving us that feeling of like, I need something. Where's that need coming from? Okay, thank you for listening. And if this resonated, leave me a comment, because I'm not an expert, but I am learning and I am growing. I'm evolving through my journey with food, through my addictions. And working through addictions is probably one of the hardest things that one can do, right? And you learn so much about yourself. So when you change your diet, you change your life, because it's such a huge part of who we are. So when we start making alterations to what we're eating and our culture and our, how we spend holidays or how we spend time with other people, that affects us on a very deep level. It changes our identity. So I'll leave you with that. Okay, see you later.